Hey everyone, Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com's DevOps TV here at Does San Francisco 2016. And I'm here with actually two friends of mine from the DevOps industry. To my immediate right, I have the IT Skeptic, all the way from New Zealand, Rob Englund. Rob, welcome.
Hey Alan, how are you? Good to be here.
And to my far right, one of the first people I really kind of met in the DevOps space. And you know, a lot of people think he's one of the people who got it started, though he maybe won't own up to that on camera.
I was around.
But he was around. Damon Edwards.
Good to be here, Alan. Thanks
Damon, welcome, and thank you. So Damon and Rob are usually two gentlemen who are never short of opinions. And over the years interviewing them, I've learned that firsthand. But guys, I wanted to talk a little bit today about the IT industry in general, and sort of, you know, John Willis did an excellent, I guess it was a tweet storm, if we can call it that. Was it last year? About, you know, some people in IT would burn out and worse than burnout, do stupid things to themselves and others as a result of this burnout. But, you know, I'm not saying maybe go to that level, but I get this, especially because I don't live in a very IT, I live in an IT desert, I like to tell people. But everyone thinks the IT, you work in IT, it's so great, you're making a lot of money, it's a whole bunch of jobs, it's you fly jet around the world, going to conferences, what could be bad?
Yeah.
And there are parts that doesn't suck, as they say, right? Damon and Rob, but for those of us who are really in IT or who are speaking with people who are really in IT, when you rip that veneer off, there's a different reality.
Yeah, I think there's a whole lot of people that would not be in this industry if it wasn't for the fact that it just pays better than whatever else they would have, or they love the underlying technology. They want to tinker, they want to play with things, they want to do the real value work they want to do. It's everything else that's on top of it that makes it kind of miserable and unbearable. And you know, Gene has this thing about, you know, he wants to help improve the lives of 1 million IT professionals, right? And I think people lose sight of or don't see the hidden, all the friction and inefficiency and frustration and mixed communication, missed signals, you know, competing priorities, lack of control. There's a lot of all the warning signs that are general, you know, just industrial burnout signs are huge cultural markers, just the way it is, right? Suck it up, it's the way it is. Yeah. You know, that's why we pay to have these pains. And life is not good for a lot of people in the IT industry, you know, and a lot of executives are like, hey, it feels pretty good, you know, we're going to conferences, life's good for you, but look how it is in the Columbus, Ohio's, the Mumbai's, the Stoke-on-Trent, England, the far-flung developments.
Even right here in Silicon Valley.
But not the shiny building, the old building, right? Where people do all the work. Look at their day-to-day life is like, and it's not so happy and rosy, and it doesn't have to be that way, right?
No. I love that phrase, humane IT.
Yeah,
I've noticed in a number of organisations now, one of the KPIs for IT is sustainability.
Right.
And they're not talking ecology, they're talking, are we working in a sustainable way in terms of technical debt and cultural debt? You know, can we keep this pace up for years?
Yeah. And I want to add something to that, and so people don't just turn off the video because they think we're a bunch of hippies, you know, which I know is Rob's line. But no, this is if you do, our number one assets are our people. If we develop our people, we can retain our people. They'll attract other talented people. That is how companies grow their number one asset to become successful. So what's humane for the people? That's nice and all.
It's also good for business.
Cold hard capitalism. This is better for the companies. The high performers have this. People want to work there.
So I think any executive, and hence any organization an executive works for, who doesn't recognize that people are their number one asset, is an organization that will not succeed in today's economy and in today's environment. Yeah. And you know, that's very different than when I came up first out of law school. Right? When you got out of law school, the idea was you went to work for some big law firm who worked you 100 hours a week. For not bad money, but they burnt you out.
Yeah, I think part of the shift we're seeing was that when we first moved into an information economy, or some of that old manufacturing thinking
was still in there.
So you treated people as
man
clerical
it's just man hours.
Yeah. And when you move to a knowledge worker model, then you have to respect them, have to empower them, have to allow them to function as professional.
You know when it came home for me, guys, I remember back in the still secure days, I'm selling vulnerability management, intrusion prevention. I'm speaking to a CIO of a large bank in New York, one of the largest in the world. And we were talking to him about the idea of automating intrusion prevention and remediation of vulnerabilities, how much time it would save his security team. And this is God's honest truth. The CIO said to me, I pay my security guys by the week, not by the hour. Do you think I give a crap if they come in on weekends?
Yeah. Well, that mindset is.
This was God's honest truth.
Yeah, it's pervasive, and people don't want to. It's a dirty secret of our industry, and because that person is probably paid better than other people relative to the skill set and what they're doing, you kind of take it, right? And it's like, if I just get through this, the mortgage payment gets paid. I can eventually, hopefully, get to some of my kids' ball games, and it'll be okay. And it's not sustainable. And in this today of fungible, you can remote distributed workforces and whatever, people have options. And
well, it's also why we see people jumping around like jumping beans in the IT industry.
Yeah.
Because you want loyalty from employees, you got to give loyalty. Right?
Well, here's an interesting little thing. So Jim Womack, who's one of the kind of godfathers of Lean, right? He talks about how for the last 30 years you could argue it's a fact that Toyota is the best run, highest performing car company in the world over the past several decades, especially on average. And he says, but you know what's funny? Every time they come out on a yearly basis, so the same 30 years for the, who are the best executives in the auto industry, who's never on that list?
Toyota.
Anybody from Toyota, right? Because it's a different mentality they have, which is you create a sustainable workplace, you respect people, you develop. They're like farmers. You develop the conditions in which the people can flourish, and the people flourish, the systems flourish, and they look themselves as stewards of helping the system flourish, rather than the kind of the other mentality, which is the more of the hunter mentality, which is like, I'm going to swashbuckle in, cut costs.
Star.
Right, and it doesn't matter how the people feel, because we're going to squeeze those results out, and then I'm going to jump ship before the next big disaster comes, and the next hunter will come in and promise things, slash, and go there. And it's a stark contrast in management philosophies, and it's played out quite well, I think, in other industries. And as the IT industry, now that we're the digital factory, now we're the factory of these companies, I think we've got to look to those lessons and say that that has to change if we want to hit that success.
It's that servant leader thing. I love that phrase. The manager's function is
the highest performing orgs we see. That's how they are. They're like, I'm the CIO of and Jody Mulkey, right? CIO of a 2,000 or 3,000 people over at Ticketmaster, $20 billion a year in business, and he shows up at the meetups that they host. Why? Because this is what people want to see. I want to see what they're up to. I want to know what's going on. I want to feel what my people are feeling, so I can figure out how to better give them the tools they need. Because then I don't have to do anything. I just have to create the conditions and sit back and help move things directionally, and we'll flourish because the people will flourish, and 1,000 of them go in the right direction and energized and flourishing is far more pressure and positive pressure than I can ever give as an individual.
Yeah, you can set an aspirational goal or a stake in the sand and really drive people to it, but then empower them to figure out the how and to get there on their own, and to mine that capability from the.
So guys, let me ask you a question on this. Beyond your writing and Damon, all the things you do, I mean, primarily, you guys are consulting to many of the largest organizations in the world. Damon, as part of what you're doing, you're running workshops, right, with all of these companies. And Rob, I know you're consulting and
to the largest companies in one of the tiniest rocks on the planet.
Nevertheless, how do you convey this notion to them? How do you instill this sense of value your people, make lives better because we all win?
That's an interesting question. I think the best thing is the cure-all for all this is make the work visible, right? If we make the digital factory visible, they can turn it into a supply chain management. Anybody, you don't have to know what goes on inside the boxes. If you can just see the flow of boxes and understand that our business is getting an idea to cash, idea manifests as a feature running a customer-facing environment, making us money, and we look at the flow of things and we just say, look how long it takes, look how painful it is to do this. And they realize, well, how are we going to fix this? Well, by making the work saner, right? And actually, this idea of we need to have a sustainable pace it's not because we're going to actually, just want to make everyone's life easier. We talk about things like working in small batches, building Slack into the system, not overloading pieces of the system. It's proven that in both the sort of physics, math perspective, and also just sort of the observational perspective, that makes factories work better. That's how parts flow better in a factory. That's how in the manufacturing world, Toyota, crushes, or didn't especially crush in the 80s, the US versions, because of these principles they put in at work. So if you can make that clear, it sort of helps kind of ping that MBA education that's sort of imprinted somewhere in the back of the executives' brains to be like, oh, wait a minute, this is good for the business, and get them focused on being good for the business. And then I think they'll look to other leaders and learn what's successful for them. Because they don't see it's good for the business, it doesn't feel right for their job. It feels like a diversion. Right. But if you see what's good for their business, then they'll want to do more of it. So to me, it's make work visible.
It's the old show me the money, right? That
Totally.
this works, right? This has outcomes. Both external evidence in other organizations, but also internally. So there's a model I use where organizations are in an experimental phase, and then something happens that somebody senior goes, holy, we have to do something, and that triggers someone senior to mandate, make this, change things, make this ours, go and figure out our new way of working.
Yeah.
And so in that experimental phase, people are trying DevOpsy things all over the place in the organization. They're doing a bit of lean here and a bit of automation there. And then when somebody big, as I say, says, make it our DevOps, then we pull this stuff out and we go, well, look how we accelerated here, and we look how or make it our new way of working, and we say, well, let's use DevOps. Look, we've got these pockets of evidence within the organization where people are more productive, where they're happier, where we can see those initial results and use those quick wins to drive that transformation internally as well. So between the external evidence and the internal evidence.
Yeah.
Guys, we're going to run out of time, but quickly, Damon, I wanted to just mention you presented, of course, again this year it does. You want to just quickly share with our audience what it was on?
Yeah, sure. It was about the topic, actually. So it was about, there's talent wars. Everyone wants to find, and I need to find the best talent. If only my recruiters can give me the talent that the unicorns have, I could be one too, right? And they're frustrated by that. And then you find out where the unicorns get their talent. They hired them from you, right? They hired them from those other enterprises, but they're flourishing there. And so the talk was really about, look, I don't know how to fix the individuals. There's whole conferences and lines of belief about how do you motivate people, how do you have the right conditions, how do you do the right HR things, the right inclusion, all that stuff. That's not my wheelhouse. But what I can say is, none of that really is going to matter if you bury people in a system that's they're rolling the boulder uphill both ways all day long in the digital IT salt mine. Like, you're just going to burn your people out and make things miserable, and it's bad. It's friction for the company. It's just bad. Just put all this friction on the machines, right, so to speak. So the talk is about, well, how as technology executives, how do we create the conditions in our organization so that people can flourish? And then, of course, we put that together with all the right HR stuff that I'm not an expert in. Then the magic really happens, right? But it was about that. So it's about the techniques, and that will lead you to where you're able to develop the talent, retain your talent, and then, which is everyone's big fear of putting money in developing people, and then attract other people because it looks like a good place to work.
What's really thrilling for me in the work I'm doing at the moment in New Zealand is exactly that: is seeing the individuals flourish.
Yeah.
So I talk about victims of the system. As you fix the system, people who were perceived as being quite negative or obstructive or old school.
So they're your best people. Yeah.
So many of them just do flourish, and that to me is the personal reward I get is seeing those individuals step up and perform and be happier, right?
Yeah. No, it keeps us going.
Excellent.
It really does.
Guys, I think we're going to need to call it a wrap because we're probably well over a lot of time, but no big deal. Luckily, we don't get paid by the hour here. Our next event will be on media host and why we're unhappy. Anyway, Damon Edwards, Rob England, thanks for joining us on DevOps.com's DevOps TV.
Always a pleasure,
You guys are always a mainstay, part of why DOES is such a great conference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Alan Schimmel for DevOps.com, DevOps TV. Speak to you soon.